and welcome back to Modern World History. In the last video, we were talking a little bit about Napoleon's rise to power, and then eventually the three blunders. Last video was the three blunders that brought about his downfall. But here's the thing, is that once we think he's gone, he actually isn't. And so, after he was defeated at Leipzig, the Allies ended up exiling him to the island of Elba. Now, I hope I've got a map later on that will show you that. But Elba is in just a small island in the Mediterranean, right, pretty close to France, to be honest with you. And this established, once the Allies got rid of Napoleon, they finally did what they had wanted to do for so long. They established a new monarchy, and they established Louis the 16th's brother, Louis the 18th. Right? And so here you have Louis the 18th sitting here like so many other monarchs on a throne, just in his lavish robes that just represent exactly what the monarchy is. You know, far-right, authoritarian, absolute kind of leadership. And their goal was to reimpose absolutism, obviously. But French peasants were like, nope, we're not going to go back and do this. We want Napoleon. Or at least a government that's not this. And they were pretty upset with Napoleon's defeat. And Napoleon was able to receive word and keep track of kind of like what's going on in France. And he ends up kind of slyly escaping exile from Elba and managed to get himself back on French soil, where he goes and rallies. I guess he goes up and appeals to his troops, to his old soldiers, and they ended up welcoming him back with open arms, and they rallied behind him. Here is an iconic image of Napoleon. Once he had just arrived, he says, let anyone who would shoot their emperor go ahead and pull the trigger. Some of the soldiers were aiming guns at him, and eventually they all put down their guns and cheered their great emperor and his return. And here is an image of this guy here is almost worshiping him as though he is some kind of a deity. And so, again, kind of like a propaganda piece that shows, I guess, glorifies Napoleon to his French people. But nevertheless, this begins a period known as the 100 Days. Napoleon has returned. The king, Louis the 18th, runs away in terror. All right, so he has fled because he's afraid now that he's going to get killed, as the military is aligning themselves again with Napoleon. Europe responded very quickly to Napoleon's return, and they established a quick coalition and met the French army at the Battle of Waterloo. All right, so the British were led by Duke of Wellington. Here is Wellington right here. And really that's what we call him. I mean, this historical figure, there's no other name to him. We just call him Wellington, or the Duke of Wellington. And he was the one leading the British army and was the main general in this coalition. Once the battle had started to take place, Napoleon was expecting reinforcements from one of his generals, and the British also were expecting reinforcements. And the Prussians came to reinforce Wellington's army sooner than Napoleon's reinforcements arrived, and Napoleon it was an off day for him. He couldn't seem to get it together. His ideas were failing. His troops were getting slaughtered, and he ends up giving in and throwing in the towel and was defeated 2 days later. And this time they sent him to St. Helena off the coast of Africa. I mean, if you even want to call this the coast. This right here is St. Helena on Google Maps. It is out there, ladies and gentlemen. Here's France. Elba was probably about right there. So, as a point of reference, last time he was exiled here, and they don't want him coming back this time, so they exiled him to the island of St. Helena, way out here in the middle of the Atlantic, where he died of stomach cancer after writing his own memoirs. And so, we have Napoleon at this point. He is a done deal. In the next video, what we want to do is we want to see how Europe responds to everything that's happening in France, how they responded to these several decades they were shot. We want to see how they respond to that. We're going to learn about the Congress of Vienna, which is going to kind of set the stage for European politics for several years to come, several decades to come after this. I'll see you in the next video.